Oftentimes, and not uncommon across SaaS organizations, we get really excited about our product and our offering. We get really excited and want to talk about that. And I think sometimes we were missing the mark on, are we talking to someone that has a big enough problem that they're actively interested in exploring other ways to solve that?
Go-to-market for SaaS and AI is in flux. Automation is reshaping the org chart. AI is changing buyer behavior. Tested playbooks don't work like they used to, and CFOs are asking harder questions about every dollar spent. In this series, we speak to the leaders facing the changes head on to understand how GTM is evolving and the tactics, tools, and strategies that are actually driving growth. In this episode, Sarah Kiley, Chief Sales Officer at ChurnZero, shares what real GTM alignment looks like across sales, marketing, and customer success, and shared ICP ownership and better discovery to the changing SDR role and the opportunities for sales orgs in the AI era. Sarah, it's amazing to have you. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about yourself and a bit about ChurnZero?
Sure, thanks for having me. So I joined ChurnZero about 2 months ago as their Chief Sales Officer. Very fresh in the role, but I have a deep background in SaaS across many different markets and verticals, and actually first met ChurnZero in 2019. I was a general manager at an edtech company managing the full customer life cycle, and came up through sales, and so really had a good command of what a sales tech stack should look like, what revenue operations should look like, but didn't really understand from a customer side of the business, how do we keep a pulse on the health of our customers? How do we make sure that we are interacting with them in the right ways to maximize our gross revenue and net revenue retention? And as I was marching down that journey of exploring, I met ChurnZero back in 2019. And so I've been following this space for quite some time. And when I saw this opportunity come out, I thought, this is a perfect marriage of my worlds, because I have lived the pain of our buyer of not having a solution or efficiencies on the customer revenue side of the business, the challenges that presents, and what it takes to be successful in moving from that world into a more automated, efficient world. And so the opportunity now to lead the sales organization and engaging with my former self is a really fun opportunity.
That's great. And we're big fans of ChurnZero. We know them well. We know Hunter, your CMO, quite well. As Chief Sales Officer, what does that role entail? If you can give us an idea, like, is it the same role as a Chief Revenue Officer? What do you own as CS?
Sure. So in ChurnZero, we have both a Chief Customer Officer and a Chief Sales Officer. And so we don't have a traditional Chief Revenue Officer. And so I own net new logo sales as the Chief Sales Officer. And so the structure of our team, we have an SDR organization internally to our team. We have an AE team, and then we have a RevOps and enablement team that are all underneath my purview. And then I work very closely with our Chief Customer Officer to make sure that we're aligned on things like ICP and revenue targets and how we're driving that collaboratively as a business.
And what's your Chief Customer Officer's name?
Her name's Abby.
Abby. So between you, Abby, and Hunter, you guys are leading the GTM motion for ChurnZero.
That's correct.
How are you guys aligning yourselves and your departments for efficient growth?
Yeah, so I think at the highest level, we align on our goals and our metrics. And so we all worked collaboratively around what are our revenue goals, what are the different things that we're going to do as a business to obtain our revenue goals, where are we going to focus? And so again, how would we define, and this is something that we iterate on, our ICP. And based upon that ICP, how do we go to market? How do we make sure that we're continuing to keep a pulse on what the ideal customer profile is? And then how do we make sure that we're not only communicating that as we go out for net new logos, but that we are also setting ourselves up for success in creating relationships with customers that we're able to grow and expand upon throughout the lifetime of that partnership.
Do you guys have a North Star in terms of, do you have a North Star for the company? Do you have a North Star for the go-to-market team? Are they aligned?
I would say that we're not a formal OKR organization, but we have a North Star from a revenue target standpoint, from a growth target standpoint, and then from an innovation standpoint. And so we, like many SaaS organizations, are looking to continue to have some double-digit growth revenue numbers year over year. And I think that it's very important to our organization across the executive team that not only are we taking a forward stance in the market in our product offering from an AI perspective, but that we are also innovating internally and making sure that we're providing efficiencies to our processes and systems internally.
Makes sense. So you are 2 months in the role. Can I ask, what changes have you made so far?
Great question. And so I am a big believer in making sure that I really understand the organization, the systems, the processes, the team, the goals before making any kind of drastic changes to an organization. So I would say the biggest thing that we're working on a team on with our sales organization today is actually improving our level of discovery. And so when we think about strategically targeting folks that fit within our ICP and making sure that we are connecting with organizations that have problems that we can solve, making sure that we are doing deep enough discovery around those problems so that we are truly identifying that perfect customer profile to bring into our partnership. And so that is one of our focus areas right now. And I think we collaboratively across the GTM team and primarily kind of Hunter and I are also focused on making sure that we're really strategic in our top of the funnel.
Yeah.
So it's great to have awesome discovery, but if we aren't filling the funnel with the right folks, then that's going to be more of a challenge. And so working across the SDR team, which sits underneath my purview, Hunter's marketing team, to make sure that we are targeting our advertising and our outreach to the right folks in the right way.
Makes sense. Are you using any kind of like qualification methodologies? Like what are you bringing in?
Yeah, if you were to look into our Salesforce system today, you would see that ChurnZero has a history of giving every qualification methodology a go. And so we capture a lot of different data. And so we are working within the constraints of what we have within our system today. And so we're not necessarily aligned to a particular sales methodology or qualification methodology at the current time. I think our primary focus is making sure that we are sharing the business problems that we solve, understanding if those are business problems with our prospects, and then making sure we understand if the organization is at a point where the cost of inaction or change or not doing anything differently is so great that they would actively consider pursuing another option. And so I think oftentimes, and not uncommon across SaaS organizations, we get really excited about our product and our offering. We have incredible customer reviews. When people get in, they really love the impact that we're able to make.
Yep.
And so we get really excited and want to talk about that. And I think sometimes we were missing the mark on, are we talking to someone that has a big enough problem that they're actively interested in exploring other ways to solve that? So that, I think, is at the core of what we're doing. Yep. I would anticipate that across the next several months, we'll probably lean into one methodology overall. And so we're working
do you have a preferred?
I think it depends on the stage of the organization and the stage of the sales team, what the right fit is for that organization. So I'm still doing a little bit of an assessment on where do we stand today, where do we have gaps in our sales process, and what one might benefit us the most.
Yeah.
My last organization, I implemented the Sandler sales methodology because the foundations and the the foundations and the fundamentals were really where we needed to focus at that point for that organization and that sale. See a little bit of something in ChurnZero that would lead me to believe that that's maybe the right fit, but we're still working to make sure that we identify the right methodology and approach to serve the customers that we're meeting in the market.
Makes perfect sense. So SDRs are under your remit. What is your thought about automation at the moment, like agentic SDR, all that kind of stuff? It's been a hot topic over the last few days, so love to get your opinion.
Yeah, no, it sure has. And ChurnZero has been an organization that has long had an SDR team within our sales organization. I think at times more successful than at other times. And so we're really taking a hard look at what is the right approach to outbounding. And so we are going to dip our toe in the water a little bit in the terms of leveraging AI from an SDR perspective through our website first. And so meeting people where they're coming to do the research when they come to ChurnZero, to make sure that we are giving them an opportunity to engage with us in a very informed manner. And we are working on, how do we then expand beyond that? And I think there are a number of things that I've seen from others that are getting involved in agentic SDRs, and we want to make sure that we're stepping our way into that in a way that gives us an opportunity to reflect as we take each step on, is that the right thing for our business and for our need?
Yeah.
In addition to making sure that as we're continuing to run the traditional SDR team, that we have the right tech stack in place to drive efficiency for them in the way that they are approaching outbounding. And so we are doing things around dynamic account assignment. So we're evaluating based upon our evolving ICP, how do we tier our accounts? How do we look at signals from the market?
Are you using Clay?
We're not. So we are doing this a bit of, daisy chaining a few things together to get there.
Yep.
I think if we were going to step into using a more formal tool, we probably would need more help internally to execute on optimizing that. So I don't think we're really set up as a team to drive that.
You're probably going to be outbounded by the Clay SDR team now or something.
So.
Yeah, no worries.
No, I mean, as a sales leader, if I'm not on a call, I will take any cold call that I can get. I think that it's a nice opportunity. Look, I have people outbounding every day, and I appreciate when people engage with them and, candidly give a little bit of feedback if they have some advice for them on things they could do better or differently. And so I try to be respectful. And honestly, we're in such a vast and wide tech space. I don't know what I don't know. And so if I don't take those calls, then I'm probably missing the opportunity to learn about something that might be new and insightful and might solve a challenge that I didn't know there was a solution for.
Yeah, it makes sense. I completely agree. Just get a quick opinion, because as a sales leader, obviously the SDR role is changing a lot. It's also entry level for a lot of sales leaders down the line. It's a great way of getting into sales. With the agentic future that's coming, what advice would you give for maybe people starting their careers and looking to get into sales and how to navigate that challenge? Because I think it's going to cause maybe some difficulties down the line in regards to do we need SDRs? Or where do people want to be a future chief sales officer or CRO? How do they start their career?
I think it's a really great question, and I honestly haven't spent a ton of time contemplating it, but just thinking here. So I started as a BDR at Oracle, and I think that really was really transformational and foundational in what enabled me to be successful in building a career in sales. And so I really value that.
Yeah.
I do think there will be new and innovative ways to bring entry-level folks into the sales organization. So as we think about how do we engage with buyers, what is the motion that we start to engage? And as that becomes more agentic AI, where we're meeting the buyers where they are, I think we give an opportunity, depending upon maybe how you segment or tier your ICP, to maybe break out the sales process. And so maybe have some folks that are leading the charge in discovery and others that are more further down the sales cycle leading the close. I think there are opportunities, and oftentimes what I've done in the previous organizations in career growth and trajectory from an SDR is to move them into more of an associate level AE position, where we put them in the space to expand their sales skills and expertise beyond outbounding, beyond discovery, into understanding a formal sales cycle and sales process. And that tends to be in a lower ACV, maybe higher velocity sales, something that is they get a lot of at-bats when they're there. They get a lot of opportunities to learn the sales process, to hone and refine their skills before they step into moving into a longer deal cycle or a bigger enterprise deal. So I think as we continue to evolve the tech stack and the tools that we have, as a sales leader, keeping our mind open to what is the right set of skills and competencies and experience for what role?
Yeah.
And how do we do that in an efficient manner to continue to build our bench? Because if we stop training the next generation of sales individuals,
It's disaster.
the pipeline's going to dry up and we're going to find ourselves in a really challenging spot. So I think is a really great question, and something that I think every sales leader should be creating their plan around. As I move into these new technologies, what is my plan to build a bench, and how do I build that into my organizational structure, into the career growth within our organization? And so that certainly presents a whole new challenge.
No, 100%.
That AI brings. It's got many benefits, but I think many then challenges of, so what does this mean for the future of the SDR that wants to be a CSO?
Yeah, exactly. I think from the conversations I've been having, just being trying to stand out a bit more through your style, be more creative, all these kind of things. How can you flex those creative skill sets? Because ultimately that's what will be the differentiator between a human and maybe a robot or an agent. I'm pretty skeptical right now in terms of agentic SDRs and stuff like that. I don't think the model's 100% accurate. I think it's still very much, it needs to be a human-led approach. I think you can automate a lot, but the actual outreach itself, you look at when an agent has reached out to you. It's very bad copy. It's usually it's personalized to your uni or to your school, to your country. It's it's pretty basic stuff. But the stuff that really stands out is where they take 30 minutes to research into your interests, your hobbies, or what's really going on for your business. I think that's where I see maybe the differentiation.
I think so. I mean, if you think about, can you leverage AI to do the deep level of research that presents you in the best possible light in front of that prospect? And so very hard to listen to every podcast that you've been on.
Yeah.
Look at all the, different conferences that you've spoken at, the blogs that you've written. Those are the things as a best practice that you really want to be doing when you're doing strategic outreach, is really learning more about that person, the things that they care about, the challenges that they talk about in the market. And so leveraging AI and leveraging prompts to surface those insights to an outbounder, I think, is a true difference maker, because that allows you to move efficiently through some really personalized and strategic outreach.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Customer-led growth. I do want to touch on this.
Sure.
So that's the name of your roundtable conversation. What is it? How are ChurnZero using that? What you guys have kind of coined the term a little bit. So tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we think about customer-led growth, we're in a space where CAC continues to rise. And so what's not really continuing to rise is your expansion CAC. And so how do you set the table when you bring in a new customer to use insights and data to build trust and drive value within that customer? If you can build a partnership where they trust you, where you have quantifiable value, those are the types of partnerships that tend to grow and expand, and they want to look for more from your company, from your organization, to help them in their business outcomes. And so when we think about, a lot of the conversations we're having is when you think about your revenue targets for your organization, and when you think about how you planned those revenue targets, what percentage of that plan was coming out of your customer growth versus net new logos, and what's the cost of doing that? And so how do you set your organization up for success and continuing to grow from a customer perspective? We also had a session on how to maximize your gross revenue retention, and a lot of what we were talking about at that roundtable was honing your ICP. Yeah. Making sure that you're segmenting your customer base, making sure that you're providing efficiencies or leveraging systems as you segment that customer base. Doing all of those things meets your customer where they are, hopefully aligned to mutually agreed upon success metrics that enables you to build that trust, earn that value, and hopefully earn the opportunity to do more things together.
And as part of this, how do you CS and sales intersect, and when should CS be involved in deals, like for like, let's say net new logos? How do you guys work together with your CS team?
We have very distinct lanes, as I explained in the beginning. So sales is on net new logos and CS is focused on our customer growth and retention. But we work very collaboratively together, and I think we share a revenue target and a revenue goal. And so it's really important to make sure that you're driving the right incentives across your sales and CS organization to get those revenue targets achieved. When I think about the partnerships that we create, how we're working in joint partnership to make sure we're focusing on the right ICP, to make sure that we are targeting the right organizations, to make sure that we are setting the right expectation for that customer journey is really critical and something that I think we do quite well. And so it's not uncommon if you're a prospect that you're going to meet the bulk of our customer experience team while you're a prospect, because we want you to understand what the onboarding journey is going to be like. What are our mutual success metrics? What can you expect in your customer experience? How do we set you up for success so that you maximize utilization and the impact of that product is really one of our differentiators, is the value from the product and the people that surround you in achieving that value. And so that's something that you will hear our sales team talking about all day and bringing those people into our conversations. And I think by establishing that up front, by setting some of those success metrics, we in turn are setting our CX partners up for success in then achieving those goals with the customer.
Love it. Last question.
Sure.
Is there any kind of details around like things that you've tried in ChurnZero, maybe not in ChurnZero, that like from a GTM motion that just didn't work, or any playbooks or tactics that you learned from? There's like, we tested it out, didn't work, so we tried something else.
So I think that the collaboration between sales and CS, getting that right, is really challenging. I've been in organizations that have really done that quite well, and organizations that have more struggled. And I think the more nuance you put into the handoff between sales and CS, the more exceptions that you make, the more challenges you present, and the more conflict that you present internally, which only then reflects externally. And so I've seen things like sales owns the relationship and the opportunity to grow the customer for 6 months after the sale, and after that moves to the customer success. And that model doesn't tend to work for every business, every customer, and every prospect. And what I've seen happen is a lot of exceptions need to be made in that instance in order to provide the delightful experience to the customer. So I think aligning compensation plans to drive towards the revenue target that you have as an organization is really critical. And by aligning those compensation plans, you're basically aligning the rules of the road of who's going to own what part of the customer journey. And how are we going to compensate people in a way that feels like it's driving the growth and the momentum that we want to have. And so I am a fierce advocate of trying to create a rules of engagement that doesn't allow for exceptions, that's set up to hopefully 99% of the time prove to be successful in driving the growth.
I actually do have one more question. What's your sales tech stack, if you don't mind?
So we are a Salesforce shop. We use Outreach. We use Chorus. In our SDR team, we have Orem as our dialing tool. So we have, I think, a pretty common tech stack across our organization. We have a forecasting tool called Boost Up. We have a digital sales room tool called Allego.
I know them well.
We have a pretty deep tech stack, but in evaluating it, when I entered the organization, there were definitely a little bit of room for improvement across some of the tech stack and room for optimizing the tech stack. We have a newer partnership with WinAI that is really exciting platform that I think we could further build on to really provide an incredible experience for our sales team through that. So we're working to optimize in some areas, but we have no shortage of tools for our team to be successful.
Awesome. Well, absolute pleasure speaking.
Same, likewise. Thank you.
Thanks.